As a series, The Legend of Zelda has always been held in high regard. Some titles in the franchise have received criticism, such as Skyward Sword for its hand-holding or Zelda 2 for its cryptic difficulty. But I believe most can agree that each and every game provides prime examples of great game design. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is no different. It's definitely on my list for one of the best games in this franchise and beyond. It's not absolutely perfect. There are minor issues, which I will discuss, but none of the faults I found hindered the game in any meaningful sense. In fact, I've never played a game that evokes a sense of freedom on this scale. What makes it more amazing is how it strangely doesn't feel daunting to explore like in other games. I'd like to credit this to the more easy to learn, hard to master mechanics that Zelda is already very proficient at. Most open world games are associated with role-playing games, which generally take time to learn all the mechanics. But this game has its learning curve licked in about an hour of playing. In addition, the more minimalist approach to icons on a minimap means your head doesn't spin with thoughts on what to do or where to go. There are moments in the game where you'll be adventuring around with not much happening and little to no music plays. This is a wonderful game design tool, as when an event does happen, it becomes all the more potent. This is why it's so satisfying to wander down a seemingly empty looking canyon only to discover a humongous temple at the end of it. It's also why enemies are much scarier than they need to be. Having complete silence, only to hear startling music and enemies fast approaching, especially if that enemy is a guardian. It also makes the actual town themes more memorable for me, since there isn't much music-wise in between, and that's okay. I thoroughly enjoyed the great art direction they chose here. I'm glad they didn't go back to a realistic aesthetic, as it can really outdate a game. I feel that happened to Twilight Princess, especially comparing the HD version to the original counterpart. Instead, what we have here is a more expressive colour palette that really lends itself well to the battered, melancholy type world we see here. In terms of game mechanics, I didn't have any issue with the weapon durability system. Weapons are a dime a dozen, and whilst you won't always get a weapon with equal or greater power to replace your broken ones, you will generally find yourself in a better place as you journey through the game, because you, as a player, will have learned enough of the world to know what makes enemies tick. Otherwise, the assortment of powers you obtain within the first hour of the game are fantastic. It works so well because each power lends itself to the great physics system. Bombs make a grand return, offering many hilarious ways to blow your enemies off ledges. Or yourself, for that matter, if you happen to be me. Magnetizing metal objects and stopping objects in time can really make for inventive scenarios. And then finally, there's cryosis, which makes ice blocks out of water. Thankfully, it wasn't nearly as situational as I thought. I have no issues with shrines either. They're only bite-sized puzzles most of the time, but with well over 100 of them, it's not a big deal. The main dungeons were also shorter than previous games, which admittedly was a bit disappointing. The team at Nintendo also included some twists in their themes, which I think are very cool, but they tended to share similar aesthetics. I would have preferred the more engrossing thematic designs of previous dungeons, but it was by no means bad here either. I had a few small issues. Frame rate does dip in a few places, but not often enough to be a detriment. And keep in mind I'm referring to the Nintendo Switch version, not the Wii U version. I can't comment on that. The rain mechanic causes slippery surfaces, which inhibit your exploration. I find this to be very annoying. Link himself has few expressions during the cutscenes, which incites he either doesn't care about what's happening or too vacant to realise it. Some of the voice acting is a bit stiff, and I feel overall like they could have went much further exploring the story concept through side quests, which mostly became boring fetch quests instead. Now, I know that last bit sounds quite negative, but I will reiterate one last time. None of these perceived faults get in the way for what is otherwise a masterclass in games design. The Legend of Zelda has set a new precedent once again for itself and others to come. Now, many have commented that they can't see where Zelda can go from here, but I believe this is just the beginning of another chapter for a revered franchise who knows no bounds. I don't know about you, but I can't wait to see what the developers at Nintendo come up with next. If you enjoyed this review, please let us know what you think about Breath of the Wild and your impressions of the game in the comments below.